Today is a really exciting day. I want to welcome everybody watching to the first season of Jake Can't Skate. As I said in my intro video, I'm Jake and I can't skate. I wasn't planning on premiering the main show until next week, but then the Flames decided to make a couple of coaching changes, so I figured I'd get in front of my mic and talk about it for a little bit, and we'd get our premiere episode of JCS out of the way. So on Friday, the Flames decided that Trent Cull, who started this past season as the head coach of the Wranglers, is going to be a permanent assistant coach with the Flames starting next season. Now, Cull came into the coaching staff because another assistant, Brad Larson, was having some family issues over the winter and had to take an extended leave of absence from the team. I find this particularly fascinating because the person Trent Cull is replacing on the coaching staff isn't Brad Larson, but it's Brad Lambert, who was one of the other assistant coaches this year. So the coaching staff is going to look something like this. The head coach is still Ryan Huska, and Larson and Trent Cull are going to be the assistant coaches. Jason LaBarbera is still the goalie coach, and Chips, Jamie Pringle, is still going to be the video coach. I'm so glad we're not changing up our video coach, because Pringle was one of the unsung heroes of the season. He was very accurate on coaches' challenges. With Cull coming in and Lambert leaving, we're going to have Cale McLean coaching the Powerplay and likely have Cull continue coaching the penalty kill. And the penalty kill drastically improved when Cull took over for Brad Larson, which that's why I was interested that it was Larson coming back and not Lambert, because ultimately we're keeping two guys who coached the same position at the start of their tenures with the team. So that's going to be interesting to see where they end up putting Brad Larson. It likely won't be on the penalty kill, because, to be quite frank, the penalty kill sucked when he was coaching the penalty kill, and it tremendously improved under Trent Cull. The most fascinating part of this for me, though, is the fact that the Wranglers, the AHL team, the guys in charge of developing our prospects, which is going to be incredibly important while we're still in the choose whatever verb you want to choose, are going to be on their third head coach in 3 seasons. They started out with Mitch Love, and then this year it was Trent Cull until he got called up to the Flames, so to speak. And now we're immediately looking for the third head coach in 3 seasons for the Wranglers. And I have some slight concern with this, because the thing about developing prospects is I would be of the opinion that it's extremely important to have a level of stability on the coaching staff, which over the last few seasons we haven't been able to. This season was a bit of a unicorn in that we had a coach take an extended leave of absence, but it's still, especially now that they're keeping him with the main club, it means that there's gonna be a new coach for a 3rd season in a row, and you won't have that level of continuity with the Wranglers that I would like to see. While we're on the topic of coaching, I'm gonna take a minute here and go on a little tangent about Cale McLean. He did fine as the power play coach. The power play was okay. It wasn't anything earth-shattering, and at this point, I think we've changed enough coaches to know, because Cale took over from Mark Savard, and the power play under Savvy was unfortunately quite anemic, and I don't think it was tons different in Toronto in terms of a system, but the difference in Toronto is obviously they have some higher end personnel in terms of finishing talent than the Flames currently do. I think regardless of who the power play coach is, we need to improve our on ice talent for there to be an appreciable difference. But while we're talking about coaching, Cale, we have to talk about something. That stupid power play breakout where whoever has the puck carries it just over the blue line and does a full 180 drop back pass to another forward to start the breakout is the worst breakout in the history of sports. I understand that this is derived from a breakout that the 90s Detroit Red Wings and the early millennium Red Wings perfected, wherein the player receiving the back pass in this breakout is supposed to have gathered more speed and make crossing the opposing blue line easier. However, when the player making the back pass in this breakout does a full 180 and telegraphs the back pass every single breakout on power play, it drives me crazy every game to watch. I don't understand why other teams on the penalty kill aren't constantly cherry picking somebody to intercept or pressure that back pass. When it happens is when we give up the most shorthanded goals outside of the traditional turnover at the blue line on a cross-ice pass that gets intercepted. So, Cale, if I were to give you some coaching advice for the power play next season, please reimagine the breakout. If I see that drop pass again for another full season, I think I'll have an aneurysm. That thing drives me insane, and it drives everybody I know insane, but we keep doing it, and we did it under Savard, and I don't understand. It goes all the way back to like when Bill Peters was coaching the team, and it's never been a good thing. It just slows the breakout down, and it's immensely predictable. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there. I meant to spend this video talking about Trent Cull, but that just drives me insane. As I was saying, the penalty kill took tremendous strides under Cull, so I'm not surprised they kept him on. However, this was the area that Brad Larson was originally coaching, so there seems to be a little bit of duplication of work here. I wonder if Larson ends up as... I suppose he could do something like Lambert was doing, where he coaches strictly the defenseman at 5-on-5. Personally, in my opinion, I think the coach who's already coaching the penalty kill could probably be coaching your defenseman as it is. This is more and more the coaching staff style that we're seeing. It's more and more like football, where you have a head coach and a whole bunch of position or special team specific assistant coaches. Normally, the assistant coach coaching the forwards, which is Cale McLean, is also coaching Powerplay. And you have either this third position that only coaches defensemen, or you can have two assistants with one coaching the offense and the power play and one coaching the defense and the penalty kill. And that's more what I'd like to see. I don't think you need that third position. You could go Cale McLean, you could go Trent Cull, and then just Jason LaBarbera coaching the goalies. Otherwise, I think it's, again, like I said, duplication of work. So I don't necessarily understand the spot that Brad Larson is now in, and he was away from the team for months this season. So I would personally give him his walking papers, as cold as that sounds. I know he was dealing with family issues this year, and I obviously can't blame him for that, but I would rather have fewer assistants and clearer delineation of roles. And I'm also fascinated to see who now becomes the head coach of the Wranglers. We've had a very successful year with the Hitmen this year. And yeah, I would walk down the hall and talk to Paul McFarland and see if he would be interested in coaching in the A next year. But then I guess you run into the same problem if you promote from within, where you're losing that continuity with the Hitmen when they're coming off a very successful season, one win away from the conference finals. So I'm fascinated to see where the search for the third coach in 3 seasons for the Wranglers goes. I'd like us to thin out our NHL coaching staff just a little bit. It doesn't sound like that's gonna happen. That's just my opinion. It sounds like they're gonna have Larson probably coach the D coach. Not my favorite setup, as I said, but it sounds like that's what's gonna happen, and that should work fine. It's not my favorite, but it worked okay with Lambert there, so it should work with Larson there too. It just seems like you're paying an extra salary when you don't need to, but that is what that is. And we're a month from the draft, a month or so now from the draft that's gonna be in LA. And we're either gonna be picking 31st or 32nd. Thanks to Toronto and Tampa for not being able to knock out the Panthers when you had the chance to. That would have been very, very kind of you, but I imagine we're gonna see at least one trade either at or before the draft here. I like Rass. I loved the stare down this year. I think he's going to end up leaving, and we're probably going to end up with either a third first round pick or a second round pick and a prospect. I just don't see when you're going to end up having to pick Zane Parekh in a couple of years here and Dustin Wolf fairly immediately. I don't see a spot for Rass as somebody who's just gonna be turning 30, even though he's a everyday top 4. People can yell about plus minus. You're definitely losing something, but I think we're gonna end up with more capital and flexibility by trading Rasmus. I also wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing a Dan Vladar trade, and I don't know what you would get back in return. I don't think it'd be another goalie, as we've got quite a few of those jamming up the system all of a sudden. And I think Devin Cooley, despite the absolute cliff he fell off around February for the Wranglers for reasons I still don't necessarily understand, I think he's a serviceable backup to Wolf. So I think I would be trading Vladar for whatever draft cap you can get out of that, and so we'd end up with at least 9 picks at the draft in this scenario for the Flames. And they had 10 last year, and it's become very apparent that Conroy hit most of those draft picks out of the park last draft. If we could have another draft like that, I think we're well on our way to good places with this team. Sorry, tankers, I don't think we're gonna be as bad as some of you would like us to be, just because I don't see Dustin Wolf falling off a cliff this year, essentially. I think he's gonna keep you in way too many games, and we got guys that can score a few goals, as we saw this year, and some new guys coming in, that I don't see tanking as a viable strategy. I would just be content with the picks we have and hope that Connie does as good a job in this draft as he did in the previous draft. I understand a lot of you are gonna tell me that I'm delusional. Believe me, I've heard it enough times on Twitter that the only way for this team to be good is if we suck next year and get Gavin McKenna or one of the other top prospects from the 2026 draft. I just don't see us finishing that low because our goalie position is way too stable, and you're not gonna be able to throw Wolf on LTIR. You're kidding yourselves, guys, if you think we're gonna be that bad. Now, future Jacob, if we are that bad, that's gonna sound like a really Homer optimistic take. Maybe Trent Cull's time as sort of a penalty kill doctor for us goes completely off the rails, and we end up with the worst penalty kill in the AHL, and Wolfie does regress for a season. In which case, I'm very glad that we have our own pick in 26. And hey, I can always cheer for Vegas to collapse. We have their pick next season too. We don't have to be bad. Vegas can be bad for us. But I'm fascinated to see what this draft brings. Bring me Ben Kendall. I really like this guy. The fact that he was a standout in the playoffs, in a playoffs that also featured Gavin McKenna. I know McKenna ended up making the Memorial Cup final with the Tigers, but Ben Kendall was undoubtedly a standout. I absolutely love this guy. I know Reshny is pretty good too. I know there's a couple of centers that we're looking at. I love Ben Kendall. Ever since the WHL playoffs, I've been absolutely bugging some people I know talking about Ben Kendall. If I was to manifest something I wanted from this draft, it would 100% be Ben Kendall. I think with that today, I'm gonna end my first episode here of JCS This Week. I hope you liked my take videos. As a side note, this is my first time doing the full YouTube experience, so there's gonna be some growing pains here. One thing I'm not gonna do in those take videos is the YouTube trope of asking you to like and subscribe. Those take videos are off the cuff, and I'm just gonna be talking about what I feel like I need to talk about. But it would be tremendously helpful to anybody seeing this if you could share this video and like and subscribe and all those fun YouTube things. I am new, but I am trying to grow a community here. I love this team, and I love talking to you about this team. So I want to keep doing it, and I want to be able to do it with more people. Next week is going to be the first week of the regular format, and that's going to be with one burning take video and one of these longer full episodes. And so I hope you're enjoying watching these, and next time I see you, we're going to have 2 games of the Stanley Cup Final to talk about. Go Panthers!